In my opinion, the greatest move of all time or move sequence happened in this game between this game was played in Spain in 1933 between two relatively unknown players, Martin Esteban and Jose Sanz, and then I think this is his last name, but somehow it's put before. You don't put the Aguado. No, I'm gonna fast forward this game all the way to the end game. So actually, yeah, I'm just gonna fast forward, and we're gonna look at this from Black's perspective. Basically, like all of this hinges on a few moves. So I'll fast forward this to the end game. Okay, this is the position I want to start with. We're playing Black. Okay, what's an obvious move in the end game for Black? Like, what would you play here if you're playing Black? His knight is currently defended. Check. That is a great move, Barb. Wonderful move, man. That's a insane move. Yeah, rook to d2, right? Just putting pressure on these pawns. Rook to d2 is pretty straightforward, right? Just you would play this in a heartbeat. Yeah, I mean you would play this in a heartbeat, right? Um, Putting pressure on these pawns. Okay, so as white, what do you do? Your pawn's under attack. Knight to a4, defending the pawn. Okay, this is where the magic starts. In the endgame, you usually want to win by promoting a pawn, right? Can anyone guess what move Black played here? And this is why it can be called the greatest move, one of the greatest moves of all time. If you, sorry, if you push the pawn, you can push it, but it's just going to get taken. It can even get taken by the pawn. And here we can have a trade and it's just going to be a draw. Or actually, probably better is to take with this. But nothing really is, I mean, nothing about this is mind-blowing. But there's an even crazier pawn to e5. It's not. Come on, guys. When I say greatest move of all time, think ridiculous moves. It's not g4. G4 doesn't do anything. He doesn't even have to react to g4, right? The rook, how? Black played. Rook takes b2. What is the idea? The rook gets taken, and yes, Black did play c3. But are you really going to promote this pawn? Is my question. How can what can no no what can white do? If you want to, thank you, Dave. So as white, so knight to d3 is a good attempt, right? This is the most natural move because it covers the promotion square. And it looks like, okay, Black just sacked a rook and Black's going to lose. You're just down a rook. But there is actually c4 discover check, right? And let's say the rook sacks itself, because if it doesn't sack itself, then you're just going to lose a piece, right? And now one of these pawns is going to promote, right? Because you can, if the rook wants to go here, Just push the other pawn. And there's no way for the rook to stop it, right? So if the rook sacks itself, what do you take? It is not knight d3, but do you take the knight or the rook? Take the knight. And again, one of these two pawns is going to promote. Right? Wherever the rook goes, you can just push the other one. The rook goes here, you push the other one. So one of these pawns is going to promote. So knight d3, so let's go back to the beginning, right? Black sacks his rook. No, because, okay, let's analyze that again. Here, 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 and here. How is your pawn going to make it? The white king's going to come in here and eat up your pawns. You're not going to win the game. Right. So this is not why this is the greatest move of all time. Because this is not it. It's not rook takes b2 and c3. That's game over. Right? So black in this position played was probably the most interesting move, and we're lucky that black played it. Because I mean there's just no way. You can't move the knight, right? This knight's under attack, but you can't move it. If you move it here, you push. Right? And you can't stop the promotion. If you move the knight here, push. And again, this knight can't go anywhere to stop the promotion. If you move it here, we already saw what happens. It does stop the promotion, but you walk into a discovered check, and these pawns are too strong. So this knight can't move here either because you just push. And again, there's nowhere this knight can move to cover promotion. So this knight cannot move. What can white do instead? Rook to d7. How does black win if rook to d7? He could push the pawn. Can white stop it? Tricky, tricky. How can you stop from making a queen? Again, knight d3, but black wins again because this is now discovered check. The king moves, takes, and now this pawn is unstoppable. So rook d7 also doesn't work because black's going to push. And again, there's no way for you to cover the promotion. You can't go here. Yeah, in the game we had this, sack, and push c3, right? But white, I'm asking for white. White can't move the knight, we already saw. If you go rook d7, it loses. So white played rook takes b6. Okay? Now, this is a dangerous move. Okay? Rook takes b6. Because what? Black still pushes the pawn. Are you sure about that? Are you sure? What's the difference? How can white stop the promotion? What's the move? Knight d3. And there's no discover check because the rook eliminated the bishop. Do you guys all see that? So now this knight can just plant itself on d1. And, okay, let's say black takes. White's still up a piece. And white's probably going to win this game, or it could be a draw. Black's not going to win regardless. Right? So after rook takes b6, you can't push the pawn. Because now that the bishop is gone, white can just stop the pawn. So if you can't push, can you take the knight? No, because white's just going to take and then black resigns here. If you take the rook, white's going to play this. And white's just up a piece. Okay, c4 here. You can't promote any of your pawns, right? So, in this position, what I think is the greatest move of all time in chess, and that move, when two pieces are hanging, and black has no pieces, one, two, three, four, five, six pawns, two doubled pawns. What does black play? Black plays the move. Just look at this move for a second. Two pieces hanging. Doesn't take either one. On to c4. And this is the only move that wins for black. The only move. Taking either piece loses. Taking the rook loses, because this pawn gets stopped. Even if you push, right? So taking either piece loses, but c4 wins. Let's analyze. Okay, let's analyze further. What do you think are some of white's potential moves here after c4? c6. Oh, rook to c6. As white, how can you try fight on after c4? Sorry. Rook, oh, rook to c6, right? Covering. But how does black win? Take the knight. And guess what? This pawn is stopping your rook from covering the promotion. So you can't stop it. Right? So you can't go rook to c6. What else can you do? What if you try taking the pawn? What do you do? How do you win? c2. Push the c pawn. And how did white stop it? You can't. You can't put the rook here. You can't put the rook here. You can't move the knight. You can't. So white can't do anything, right? You can't take the pawn. It's going to push. You can't go rook to c6. You take the knight. See, now the rook leaves this file. We just go back to the file it was on, and it can't go back. So neither of these two moves work, but white finds a very creative defense by playing rook to b4. Okay, rook to b4. And this, a lot of people think, is an even better move. As in, this is the greatest move of all time, the one that black plays here. Can black take the knight? No, because white recaptures and white's up a rook. If you push the pawn, what's white gonna do? He can take, right? And the promotion is covered. What? And Sky already sees it. In this position, when you can take the knight, you can push for a promotion. When black has no pieces, the only winning move is pawn to a5. Pawn to a5. Let's think. Let's just analyze all the winning lines here, because there are so many to analyze. Okay? What's the most obvious move? The rook's hanging. Yeah. I'll take the knight. Well, you can't stop the promotion here. If you take this pawn, black's going to take, and guess what? This a5 pawn is the one thorn that's preventing you from stopping this pawn. So everything works out so perfectly here that all of this can happen. So a5, you can't take this pawn because promotion is unstoppable. Can you take with the knight, maybe? Maybe you can take with the knight. If you take with the knight, what happens? The answer, if you take the rook, that's dangerous because now your pawn is stopped. Right. You push. You don't take this rook. So how beautiful is this? You just don't take any of the free stuff, but the pawn gets promoted. And nothing white can do. These pieces are so uncoordinated here. So after a5, what can happen here? Yes. What about knight to d1? Does this do anything? You still win. You can even push, or you can take the rook. Right now you can take the rook. It's fine. Knight to a4, same thing. Push the pawn. Or no, wait. No, you don't push the pawn here. Now you take the rook. a5 in the game. What happened was knight takes c4, black pushed c2, and white resigned. What a what a miraculous game. And even like it looks like maybe white can survive, right? Because your rook's hanging, right? So maybe how many points is a knight and a rook worth? 5 plus 3, 8. Let's say white tries to survive, right? Oh, I have a knight and a rook for a queen, so my rook's hanging. Let me just get rid of this pawn, and then there's a queen, right? But turns out, unlucky for white, there is a what? Where c5, queen to c7. So even all of this, white is so unlucky because all of his pieces are tangled into a mess, out of control. I mean, how many of you would play or even consider rook takes b2? And then to c3. And then after rook takes b6, to not take either piece, and not take either one, but play c4. And after rook b4, to not take the knight or push, but to play a5. All three of these pawns are needed. And black has no pieces. None. Only pawns are overpowering a whole knight and rook. You guys gotta appreciate that. A5. Well, okay, out of all of these, what do you think is the greatest move? Out of probably rook takes b2 or c4 or a5. Which one is the most beautiful? You think a5. What do you think is the most beautiful? Yeah, a5 is so hard to see. But he had to see all of this to sack his rook in the first place, which was even crazier. Yes, basically. But it was 1933 when there were no engines. Yeah. Do you like c4, a5, rook b2? What's the best move in your opinion? Ah, a5. I think personally c4 is the prettiest move because look, just both pieces are hanging, and you just play c4. And this is let's if I turn on the engine here, Look what it says. The the first top move, c4, is -5, so winning for black. And every other move is winning for white. Sorry. The only win is c4. Yep. Yeah. Takes. Here. Sack. c4. Okay. This, the engine just wants you to give up, basically, but rook b4 is the second best move. And a5 takes here, and that's the end of the game. So that's basically what I had for you guys today. It's the Rashid game and then this one. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed.